ASUS has us seeing double with a refresh of their ZenBook DUO laptop. But are the double screens the only standout feature, or did ASUS up the awe factor in other areas as well? That's exactly what we want to find out, but to get there, we're going to ask a few questions like, how new is new? Are we talking about a complete redesign, or is ASUS just slapping new hardware into an old chassis? Alongside any exterior changes, what kind of new hardware is going in here, how does it work, and most importantly, at least for me, can it actually game? Well, thanks to ASUS for sponsoring this video. That's exactly what we're here to find out in this overview of the 2026 ZenBook DUO, and it happens right here, right now on Robeytech. Now, you've probably seen the ZenBook DUO before. I mean, it's hard to miss. And yes, the experience of using one is as rad as it looks. And I wasn't the only one who had that experience with last year's model. When we look down through the comments on the review of the 2025 ZenBook DUO, they are overwhelmingly positive from people who are actively using these laptops. But even after seeing last year's ZenBook DUO and using it, this laptop meets tablet still turned my head at CES 2026. So when ASUS told me that they were packing more power than ever before into this twin screen beauty and offered us the opportunity to check it out, it would have been rude to say anything other than yes. Am I right? What we're going to do in this overview is give you a picture of what's new with the ZenBook DUO in 2026, talk about what's powering this thing actually, and give you a peek at what it can actually do. Let's start with one of the first questions. Are we looking at a complete redesign or just updated innards? Now, the 2026 ZenBook DUO, it's actually a redesign, and one that reduces the overall footprint of this laptop by around 5%. And one of the major pieces that ASUS was actually able to shrink down in the 2026 model was their display. No, they didn't actually reduce the dual 14-inch display design that we love, they reduced the gap between them by 70%. While the gap between screens wasn't obnoxious in last year's model, the gap between the 2026 ZenBook DUO's displays is nearly non-existent, which is great if you're using it in desktop mode. And since we're talking about the displays, these have also seen a bump in specs. While they retain the 2880 by 1800 or 3K resolution of the previous generation, these OLEDs have actually seen a bump in refresh rate from 120 Hz to 144 Hz, as well as a bump to 1000 nit in max brightness. ASUS calls the displays featured in the 2026 DUO the Lumina Pro OLED. And if you can't tell from here, they're gorgeous. And with an anti-reflective coating, you don't have to worry about being able to see clearly in spaces with bright lighting. That's not all. ASUS also increased the battery size to a 99 watt-hour battery for longer life on the go. They improved the audio experience with a 6-speaker design featuring Dolby Atmos and Dolby Vision, increased the size of the touchpad, and improved the key travel distance on the keyboard for easier typing. And in case you're wondering about durability, thanks to ASUS's special aluminum treatment, or Ceraluminum chassis, the ZenBook DUO continues to meet ASUS's military-grade standard. It's scratch-resistant, shock-resistant, and remains largely smudge-free. So all amazing things to see coming together as improvements over the last generation. But there is one more thing. At the heart of the 2026 ZenBook DUO is Intel's new Core Ultra Series 3 processor, also known as Panther Lake. But more specifically, this model we're looking at is equipped with the Intel Core Ultra X9 388H. It's a part of the Intel Core Ultra X9 Series 3. And don't worry, we'll share a bit about what gives this CPU its X factor. Now for starters, this is a 16-core, 16-thread processor that is anything but tame, unless you're talking about power consumption. When compared against Intel's Lunar Lake processors, Panther Lake showed 50% more multi-threaded performance at a similar power draw as Lunar Lake, and 40% lower power for single-threaded performance versus both Lunar Lake and Arrow Lake H CPUs. Those are not insignificant numbers when you consider how impressed we were with the Arrow Lake H processor in last year's model. And that's only part of the story. The other part, which is the part that actually has me excited, is the Arc B390 GPU inside of the Core Ultra X9 388H. You might say that the X stands for XE3, the graphics architecture powering Panther Lake. While Intel's B-Series badging points to their Battle Mage architecture, XE3 is actually a step beyond. This strategy is similar to what we saw with Intel's Lunar Lake XE2 graphics cores. They weren't standard Alchemist cores, but they weren't quite full Battle Mage either, which sounds really cool when you say it like that. Okay, in the end, what does this all mean on a practical level? Well, according to Intel, it means that these new graphics cores perform at a staggering 50% better than Lunar Lake. And in the case of this 2026 ZenBook DUO we have sitting right in front of us, the X9 3AAH has 12 Xe3 cores to work with. What's also absolutely wild here is that Intel has a feature called Shared Memory Override that allows you to allocate up to 28 gigabytes of the ZenBook DUO's 32 gigabytes of memory into VRAM. So in those situations where you need a little bit of extra VRAM, Panther Lake absolutely provides. Now all of this absolutely gives us hope when it comes to gaming, but hang on to that for a minute. Believe it or not, ASUS does actually give you some other options with the ZenBook DUO. Let's say you're hearing all of this and thinking, wow, that sounds awesome, but way more than I need in a laptop. Well, if that's you, you like the design, but you want to pull back on all that power, ASUS will have other models, including one with the Core Ultra 9 386H, which will be released alongside the X9 model we have right here, and one with the Core Ultra 7 355, which will release sometime later. Now, both processors have less Xe cores in the X9 chip, but they're all coming equipped with Intel's NPU 5 for AI workloads. This just adds one more utility to this device if you're someone utilizing AI features in your productivity workflows, video conferencing, or asking your PC to show you what you look like with a glorious blonde mullet. Each ZenBook DUO model exceeds the 40 TOPS requirement for Copilot Plus AI PC certification, and according to Intel, it actually does it at a lower power cost than their previous gen chips. And on top of all of that, each ZenBook DUO model comes with 32 gigabytes of LPDDR5X memory and at least 1 terabyte of NVMe storage. We don't have the whole picture of what prices look like for all of the options yet, but at the time of recording this video, the Core Ultra X9 model we have here will retail for around $2,300. As for availability, we should start seeing pre-orders open up for the Core Ultra X9 and the Core Ultra 9 models sometime in Q1 at retailers like Amazon, Best Buy, B&H Photo, and the ASUS store. As for the Core Ultra 7 model, the timeline for that one's release is to be announced. Okay, so now that we know what's new, what options are available, and what's powering the ZenBook, how does this thing actually work? What do you do with all of this? Well, that depends on your imagination and what kind of space you have to work with. If you want to use it like a regular laptop and only use one screen like what we have right here, you can totally do that. If you want to pop the magnetic keyboard off of the bottom display and use it in dual screen mode with the built-in kickstand, you can also totally do that. If you want a larger desktop space to work with, rotate it 90 degrees and there you have it. Do you want to share your display across the table with a friend? Flip it open and make it happen. And if you don't want to use the keyboard or touchpad at all, then you could use the virtual keyboard or the included ASUS Pen 3.0 stylus. You can do whatever you want to do, boo. Now, with a number of orientations possible with this device, it really excels at meeting the needs of your settings. Whether that's at home, in the coffee shop, or flying economy, or first class. This is something that the whole team actually really loved about last year's ZenBook DUO. The versatility of actually having a second display without having to fuss with any extra cabling, or traveling with a second display at all, that essentially cemented it as a really functional option for someone who needs to do a lot at once on a laptop. Now that we have a bigger picture of what the 2026 ZenBook DUO is, let's answer the question that I'm pretty sure you as my audience are dying to know. Can it actually game? I'm about to say something that would have sounded crazy if I said this 5 years ago, but Intel's integrated graphics cores have gotten surprisingly good. And from what we're seeing, gaming shouldn't be an issue on this laptop, within reason of course. We're going to show you some gameplay capture on screen here with the FPS displayed, but keep in mind that these numbers are actually lower than what you'd experience because not only are we gaming on this laptop, we're recording the gameplay at the same time. So what you're seeing is about 2 to 3 frames per second on average lower than it could be. Also keep in mind that we're not using XeS multi-frame generation in any of the metrics we're going to show today. We are, however, using XeSS in balance whenever it's available. Okay, so less talky, more numbers. Let's say you're like me and you're getting back into World of Warcraft with a new expansion Midnight just on the horizon, but you have to travel for work. Don't worry, you're not going to have a problem here. In our test loop, we saw our frame rate average just above 100 frames per second. In some of the places in our loop, which is a boat ride, this really pushes the draw distance and those average hovered in the 120s. And that was with the graphic presets at 8 out of 10. Now moving on to Diablo 4, we saw the frame rate averages in the mid-60s with ray tracing low and XeSS. We did notice some dips into the mid-50s when we ran into bigger packs of enemies in the defiled cavern dungeon, but nothing that caused the game to be unplayable. Of course, we do then have to answer the most important question, can it run Crysis? I mean, can it run Cyberpunk? And this is also a surprising yes, with a few caveats. At ray tracing low, we saw an average of 38 frames and just shy of 50 FPS at high settings without ray tracing at all. While those numbers don't get us over the 60 frame per second threshold even after dropping the resolution to 1440p, we have to take a step back and remember what we're talking about here. This is a graphically intensive game running at high visual settings, and it's running at a playable level, and it's all happening on an integrated GPU. That's the power of Intel inside, and it's crazy to see it work. So, with what we're seeing of the 2026 ZenBook DUO so far, and I feel like we're just scratching the surface, this thing is a versatile and capable laptop that can enhance productivity, provide enough power for gaming, and give an effortless second screen experience for watching your favorite streaming platforms while keeping an eye on your email. But really, the limits of how you use this thing are absolutely up to you. Now, we're gonna wrap things up here, but we do wanna say another thank you to ASUS for sponsoring this video and for giving us some time with the 2026 ZenBook DUO. If you wanna know more about the ASUS ZenBook DUO, you can check it out in the link in the description. And if you wanna learn more and have us do an in-depth review of this laptop, let us know in the comments and let us know what kind of things you'd like to see covered in the review. And if you like this video, we'd love it if you'd slap those like and subscribe buttons, and if you'd ring that notification bell here at both Robeytech and Robeytech Live. That way you get a notification whenever we post videos like this or go live over at Robeytech Live. As always, if you made it this far in the video, we'd like to say a huge thank you, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.